Good evening, everyone. My name is Kristen Decker-Dawson. I'm the Director of Advising for Mechanical Engineering. So today's intent is to give you a little bit more information about the ME program and talk with also some people from our Purdue Mechanical Engineering ambassadors. And with me, I'm also Luana, if you would introduce yourself as well.
Hi, I'm Luana. I will be moderating the chat tonight. So if you've got chat questions for our student panelists, you can put those in the chat. I'm an academic advisor. I'm the newest. Actually, I'm not the newest. We just hired somebody else. So I've been here since August. And so welcome to Engineering Your Major. Hopefully we can answer all of your questions tonight.
All right, so I'm going to just kind of give you a rundown of what we're going to do today. So if I can get it to advance, there we go. All right, so I want to try to start off with kind of the definition of mechanical engineering and lead into, actually we're doing it backwards. We're going to talk about career opportunities, so what you can do after you graduate, what you can actually do here educationally within the school as far as courses and whatnot. Experiential learning. So this is where I want to definitely bring in PMEA to discuss what they have done on campus outside of curriculum, as it is just as important, if not more important, than the actual classes that you're taking through your program. And then lastly, we will end with, I'm going to try to give at least 30 minutes at the end for PMEA to address some of your questions that you have. So what is mechanical engineering? It's basically the process of dreaming up, designing, and building a process, machines, and systems. So it's basically coming up with ways in which that we can make the world a better place, run more efficiently, and whatnot. So through a lot of different ways. Instead of showing the video, one of the things I want to encourage you all is when you go out and look at the websites, one of the things that a lot of the engineering schools have really taken some time to do is highlighting past alum. So, or actually current alum, I should say. So I would like to highlight one that was just a huge announcement that was just made effective March 1st, Jennifer Rumsey, who's actually a BSME grad of 96, was just named the president and chief operating officer for Cummins. What makes it unique is female engineer, lived in Columbus, Indiana, which is where Cummins headquarters are. So it's just a unique story. So I encourage you to go out and look at our website and hear about her, how she got to that level. All right, so moving on, just a little ideas as far as statistics about our program. So mechanical engineering, the undergrad program is ranked 7th in the nation. So that is a huge accolade for us. Most of the College of Engineering schools are ranked, but 7 is definitely, we're proud of that, especially being as large as what we are. So we are run anywhere from around 1,380 to about 1,500 students. That's from sophomores to seniors. Two other things that I like to brag about as a graduating coordinator is where our students end up as far as their GPA. So our average graduating GPA is a 3.4. And also with that, we have about a 94% on-time degree completion. And what I mean by that is the fact that our students graduate if they are doing a 5-term co-op or if they're doing a combined program, are still graduating within that time frame, so 94%. And then our students leave making roughly around $71,000, and that's obviously an average depending on what industry that they end up in. So I'm giving some statistics, some more. I'll just want to touch base on the numbers again. So typically we graduate students every term, summer, fall, and spring is by far our largest. I'm not putting up the spring 2020 data, quite frankly, is just because that happened during COVID. It didn't really represent the numbers that are normal. So our most recent numbers, I would say, from doing this for over 8 years, this is, what you see on the screen, this is the typical graduating senior. So one of the things I can say that has increased over my years of being here is the number of undergraduate students doing research, and you'll actually hear from PMEA today their experiences in doing research as an undergrad student. The other thing I've seen increase are minors and certificates. So students are maybe getting a certificate in entrepreneurship, potentially a leadership certificate. And again, we can talk with students about that as far as what minors that they are receiving. I know I've had problems with this slide in the past, so I'm going to try to come back to it. I think it loads awful. But here's what I wanted to, I'm going to go and use, actually, I'll go ahead and still use this pie chart to give you an illustration, because honestly, the two that are highlighted there with the aerospace and defense at 13% and automotive at 21%. Again, this was in 2019. So this fluctuates a lot based upon what's going on in the economy. I can tell you back in 2008, the automotive industry, as far as where students were going, were down as low as 9%. So the other percentages are what's represented on here is anything from aerospace and defense that's on there. Petroleum, we have a lot of students going into petroleum, biotech industries, consumer products, consulting and construction, all of that. So those represent some of those smaller pieces of the pie that are on that chart. And this is something too that you could see from our website. So as far as the companies, the actual company names, who's hiring mechanical engineers? So, again, I just talked about Cummins. So Cummins is, I call it local because it's just, down south a little bit from West Lafayette. So huge companies, renowned companies are hiring MEs upon graduation. Obviously, General Motors sticks out, Allison's Transmission sticks out because of the type of industry that those are in based upon the percentages. But you can also see other outliers in there as well. You got Lockhart, Martin, you have places that are for the aero defense and other consulting groups that are on here. So just array of different opportunities that you would see if you went to IR, Expo. These companies would be represented there in recruiting our mechanical engineering students. So now I kind of want to head into more of the curriculum piece. So one of the things to note is that the curriculum has changed recently. So as you all that are listening, starting out, some of the people on this call might have done a little bit different track with some of the core classes that have changed. This again is also on our website. One of the things that's really nice about the website version is you can literally click into these areas and you can learn more about the specific class, the objective of the class, and what you're going to learn from that. The reason why this is so important is because it literally is a visual image of the classes and how you take them. The other thing that I like about it is the fact that you can kind of see what you will be studying when you take these classes. So the blue represents the systems and measurements and controls area. The yellow is more of your mechanical sciences, the green, your thermal fluid sciences, and your kind of salmon color here are your more of your design type classes. So some of the aspects that you're going to see probably more mechanical than you would other program is definitely the design component. We have a design that's in almost every single year or semester, if you will. So those are things that you would see in mechanical that you might not see in other programs. The thing I want to focus on the most actually is the things that you would do outside of those core classes. So this kind of represents the different opportunities you have to tailor your mechanical engineering degree to make it what you want. So starting off on top, you have more of what I call the technical program. So this is for students that maybe started out in engineering honors, that maybe know they want to pursue graduate school coming in. They know that I want to not just stop at my BS degree, I want to keep on going. So these students might want to take more technical minors. So maybe a CS, a physics, may even want to pursue electrical and computer engineering minor. So those are opportunities to get more of that technical background and utilize those electives more. In the center, that tells you exactly what the BSME curriculum is. So I'll go into more detail about that and the specifics, but you can see that, there are a lot of core classes that you're required to take, but you also have a lot of different elective options out there to make the degree your own. So the other two that I want to bring up as far as tailoring your degree is we have a lot of students, specifically, I want to reference consulting. A lot of students will get that backbone. They want to have that background in mechanical engineering, but they might not actually go out and practice mechanical engineering. They might actually utilize that knowledge to be consultants for other firms. So one of the things that I've seen a lot of students do is pursue potentially an entrepreneurship certificate, a management minor. One thing that's nice about a management minor is it fits very nicely into the plans of study for the BSME program, because the management minor classes can actually be utilized towards the technical elective requirements. Econ minor, that can fit for gen eds. So again, those types of minors tend to be more I guess, sought after or popular because of the fact that they can be embedded into your curriculum quite easily without adding additional time to degree. And then on the other side, these are more opportunities, what I call to, utilize more of your general education electives. So you could be potentially, those of you that started out with the pursuing the Cornerstone certificate, some of those gen ed classes would then go into meeting those requirements for our program. The global engineering minor, for some of you that want to pursue maybe a study abroad opportunity, sometime COVID will hopefully be over and we'll start traveling again. You will be able to potentially pursue that as well. And we do have a few, what I would say, pre-health or pre-med students that are also pursuing a mechanical engineering degree. So I wanted to break down the electives for you a little bit more so you understood what you could potentially do with your elective options. So we do have 18 credit hours of gen eds that are required. Two of those are specific to an econ and a world culture affairs class. So that makes up 6 credit hours of that. And then the other 12, the 4 classes make up the 18. So again, those are anything that are social sciences or humanities classes. They are not STEM classes. They are, psychology, sociology, histories, things of that nature. And then technical electives. So the reason why these are highlighted in red, this is a change in the curriculum that we have had. So technical electives, 3 classes or 9 credit, well, it has to equal 9 credit hours. So 9 credit hours is what's required. Typically that's 3 classes. These are classes that you could take in ME, so ME electives, or you could take them outside of the school in either electrical and computer engineering, nuke engineering, aero, and then some students then also take them outside in other areas, management, like I said about the management minor, physics, math, etc. Okay, so those are technical classes potentially outside of the school to get you more breadth of engineering program. And then ME electives. So these are classes within the ME curriculum taught by ME faculty. Okay, so some courses like that. And the other thing about this is they are non-required. So they're not part of the required curriculum. They're in addition to that. So popular courses that a lot of students like to take, ME 363, 444, 49. Some of those are finite element analysis classes, some CAD design, toy design classes, and some manufacturing type classes. So all great classes for getting more of an understanding about different fields in mechanical engineering. And you also have the ability to utilize directed research with the ME faculty towards some of those credit hours. So we have opportunities for students, again, we'll talk later about their directed research that they have done with faculty, either on a team or individually. And then lastly, we have a free elective. Actually, probably about 50% of students coming from first year engineering to mechanical engineering already have that free elective component required that's already done. They have it utilized through AP credit. The only really restriction on that is that it's not a preparatory class, so it can be an algebra or trig type course. And I have seen a lot of students that don't have it completed, they will actually utilize that credit towards a minor class. So, okay, so now I want to move into more of that experiential learning. So the things that you do outside of the class that can make you a more rounded student. So one of the things I would say is that's really important for those that are majoring in mechanical engineering. And the reason why I state that is because of the size and the breadth of what the degree offers. So you really want to have kind of find your niche about narrowing that down a bit. So this kind of on the side illustrates some of what our students have done, whether it be internships, global engineering programs, and study abroad, co-oping, research, our GEAR program, which is an extensive study abroad and service learning. So you see that area at the top there of none that's written in red. So very few of our students are in that category. And quite frankly, that's one of the reasons why we have such a high percentage of students getting jobs at time of graduation is because of the experience they have. One of the things I would just encourage you to know is about getting into the School of Mechanical Engineering. We are a high enrollment program. We do have admissions thresholds. If you're wanting to make sure that if ME is your first choice and you really want to pursue that, you really want to make sure that you have a solid GPA foundation. So you're looking at a 3.2 overall West Lafayette campus GPA, as well as your engineering admission index. So your EAI, which is essentially all your first year engineering required courses, that also needs to be a 3.2. So that is your best avenue to get into the school is by maintaining that, your first and second semesters in that first year engineering program. The other thing is that, the reason we hear a lot of students that say, why did you choose mechanical engineering? We get concerned when students say, well, the only reason why they picked it was just because it's broad. Okay, so yeah, that's great that it does provide you a lot of career options, which I showed you at the beginning of the presentation, but you also need to have somewhat of a vision of where you want to take mechanical engineering. And those students we have found that have that vision, go out and get internships or co-op experiences or do research in a specific area, those students tend to have stronger potentially GPAs and work ethic because they see and they kind of have, worked hands-on in industry and been able to come back and demonstrate that. And basically, are you willing to embrace these opportunities? And, I know that it's hard during COVID times, but hopefully come fall 21, you will have more opportunities to do in-person things, the actual in the lab research, and actually go out and do study abroad and the internships. So there's a lot of different ways in which you can do research. So two of the top programs there are SURF and DURI. Those are university-led programs. There are those opportunities. I will say that most of our students, when they do research, typically do what we call directed faculty research, where you're either doing one-on-one research with a faculty or part of a team, an undergraduate team with a TA or graduate student. So that way you would earn credit, like I talked about earlier, for the class essentially is ME 498 for your first term of research and your second term of research with that same faculty with ME 499. So that research can be utilized towards that credit. We also have opportunities to do research for scholarship credit. So you apply for that and also not only receive the opportunity to research with the faculty, but actually get money for it as well, which is a huge bonus, and actually do a publication with faculty. So lots of fun opportunities to get that credit. And then obviously study abroad. Unfortunately, we've had to take a short break from this, but I can actually say that before COVID, mechanical engineering had one of the highest participants of study abroad within the university. So on average, we would send approximately 80 to over 100 of our students over to different programs abroad during their junior term, typically if they wanted to do what we call the LEAP program. So our LEAP program is the term abroad, the spring semester abroad is a junior year. And that's where students will go to articulated program schools, like for example, China SJTU, and literally take thermodynamics there, heat mass transfer, and other type classes that would then transfer back to Purdue for that credit in grades. Actually, the grades do transfer as well. For students who don't want to spend a whole term abroad, that's fine. We have a lot of short-term, what we call STEP programs. And then the other thing that we've seen growing is the opportunity, what we call Surge, which is where you would go abroad and actually do research abroad with faculty outside of mechanical here at Purdue. And then one of the other things that you'll hear from our students, the opportunities to get involved on campus. There's like roughly 900 just engineering only student organizations. So there are tons of different opportunities for you as students to get involved. Some of the ones that are more tailored towards mechanical engineering or engineering in general. Obviously, I'm sure most of you heard about the car teams. So Formula SAE and Baja, electric car. You don't have to be mechanical to participate in those, but the school represents a large chunk of those students. IEEE also has some opportunities. So those of you guys that are interested in robotics, so that's also something that we will talk about. And I know that we have students from PMEA here to talk about EPICS. We have some students doing EPICS. And I know we've had potentially some short-term study abroads out there as well. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to invite PMEA to at least, if you could show your video so we can start that. And as you're showing your videos, once I get the bios, right now what I wanted to do is at least let you see who we have with us tonight. And give you some understanding. So we have 2 sophomores, 2 juniors and seniors, and that was done on purpose to actually make sure if you had questions about the transition from from first year engineering to sophomore, what does that look like? As a junior, how do things change as far as curriculum and whatnot? And then also as graduating seniors. So we also have some that are online that potentially already have jobs. So that's always exciting to hear about what they will be doing. So, all right, with that, let's see. Luana, are you there?
Yes.
All right.
While you guys are typing in the chat your questions, I would love to open it up. First question. A lot of students are interested in robotics, and there's not a whole lot of robotics classes in the major. So Nitya, can you talk about being a part of Boiler Robotics?
Yeah, definitely. So I think being part of clubs, so also Purdue IEEE ROV, where they made underwater robotics, and then Boiler Robotics, which is a project team that builds Mars rovers, I think gives us a lot of like hands-on experience that we can kind of see, and it's similar to industry in those fields. And then it really complements like mechanical engineering in general, since we apply the things that we've learned and all of those kind of technical skills, and then we apply that and get hands-on experience. So I would definitely suggest people to join project teams, and that really gives you a really good experience complementing your education.
Where would they go first, Nitya?
I would say there's a lot of different resources to find project teams. So things just like looking at BoilerLink. I know SAO has a lot of these fairs that they do at the beginning of each semester, but just kind of go through those different organizations and project teams and clubs and see what interests you in terms of like their mission and what they're building. And then just reach out to them, and they'll probably have some sort of like process to be part of the team and kind of get involved in that.
Thank you. We have a question from the chat. If I do mechanical engineering as my major, will I still be eligible for aero jobs? And I know the answer is yes, but does anyone want to chime in? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
I can go ahead and talk about this.
Thanks, Anna.
So I'm a senior and I currently have a full-time job lined up with L3 Harris. So they are in the space and defense category. And I'm reading your second question right now, so I can touch on this as well. Also for someone who wants to major. So yeah, I did not know originally I wanted to be in the defense industry. So I think mechanical was good for me and not going specifically aerospace, because like when we say it's broad, like you can see my internships. I had one with STERIS, they're a medical device company, and then Siemens, that's electronics. And now upon graduation, I'll be going into space and defense. I'm on the commercial side, the space side, but still, I think from all of my experiences, you can definitely see there's a wide range of things, and it's possible to get aerospace jobs. And I did not even have any experience internships in those industries before interviewing with them or talking to them.
So Anna, just to interrupt real quick, just because I know this, what did you initially come to mechanical engineering? What is it that you wanted to do?
Yeah, so I have had quite the way around. I was originally in exploratory studies. And then when I was in exploratory, I was thinking that I wanted to do biomedical, was in FYE. I changed my mind to mechanical, but still was really considering like healthcare as my number one opportunity. And it wasn't until I would say like I got the offer from L3Harris. Like I was interviewing with a lot of healthcare companies, but still keeping my options open. And the job offer with L3Harris was just too good to not take. And it didn't even matter that it was not in the healthcare field for me.
Thank you. Allie, can you talk about being on the Grand Prix team?
Sure. So I'm a part of the Society of Women Engineers Grand Prix team. I'm actually the backup driver, not the driver, but I hope to be the driver for the team one day. So I love being part of the Society of Women Engineers Grand Prix team because it's such a wonderful way to gain hands-on experience working on a cart. And also you're able to build a community with other like-minded individuals. A lot of people on my team are also mechanical engineers, but we also have some electrical engineers, and some other disciplines as well. We also have a biochem, and it's such a great way to find community within ME and within something that you love. And it's a team environment because Grand Prix is very competitive. And while I haven't been able to participate in a Grand Prix yet since the last one was canceled, I'm currently a sophomore, but we are on track to be able to race this semester. And having that extra part of my day be dedicated to my team and to get to know the students on that team as well is a wonderful opportunity.
Speaking of community, Jonathan, can you talk about being an ASME and how and why students should think about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the best things about mechanical engineering being so large is that there's a club for whatever you're looking for. So I specifically put a lot of time into ASME, which is the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. That's one of the big three organizations in ME, and it specifically focuses on company relations. So if you're looking for resources to help you get an internship, to help you get a co-op, to make industry connections, it's a really good club to join. It's especially friendly towards underclassmen. There's no requirements. You don't have to interview or submit an application. You just join completely free of charge, and you'll be forwarded invitations that ASME gets from companies like Cummins, like Honda, like Caterpillar, and you can attend info sessions and talk with company reps on a more personal level than just standing in line at IR. So if you want to get a leg up on the other students in Purdue and have a more personal connection with industry sponsors, then ASME is a great way to do that. And also they have a bunch of design teams that are really friendly towards freshmen and sophomores that may not necessarily have a ton of hands-on skills yet because you haven't taken those lab courses. So if you're a little bit intimidated by joining like a CART team, then joining ASME can be a good way to get basic experience with power tools or with CAD design and joining one of their many design teams.
Can you talk a little bit, answer this question? So a lot of students are asking about the virtual environment now and opportunities. So does ASME have opportunities that are virtual or in person?
So of course, earlier it was always in person, but I think at this point, most clubs have been able to rotate their events into online. For a club like ASME, it's not too hard because we just take our company info sessions and we move them into Zoom calls. So you can still directly face company representatives. With things like design teams, it can be a little tricky. I think a good way that ASME has worked around that is instead of getting hands-on skills, you'll learn valuable things like CAD. You can learn CAD as well online as you could in person. So just because a lot of clubs are online now, that doesn't mean that you can't start or can't keep improving your skills during your extracurricular time. So definitely look into stuff like that.
Thank you. Evan, can you talk a little bit about your Diversified Technologies internship and how you were able to get that since you're a sophomore during this pandemic time?
Yeah, so Diversified Technologies is a company that does a lot of applications in pulse power modulation. So there's a lot of electrical engineers there as well as mechanical engineers. So that was a really great experience for me to get a lot of hands-on design work. I spent a lot of time in SolidWorks designing parts, enclosures, and fixtures, and following them through design and manufacturing, and also coordinating with electrical engineers to follow their electrical design alongside my mechanical design. So in terms of actually getting internships, I think a great way of doing that is just honestly just applying out into a lot of places. And first of all, figuring out what you do want to do, have some idea of the industry that you want to go into, and then doing a lot of applications there. And so I was extremely lucky to have that internship, and it was actually in person. I was in there 40 hours a week. Because Diversified Technologies has a lot of government contracts, and so they were an essential company.
Excellent. We have another question from the chat, so maybe someone else can answer. Let's see, does the ME department help you get an internship or job? So can someone explain the process for them? Maybe Christina, we haven't heard from you yet.
Yeah, so I guess for internships, after freshman year, I had an internship at Video Technologies, and that was me just like applying to a ton of places online. Honestly, I don't know how many I applied to, but definitely just like putting yourself out there and like having your resume everywhere. And I think also that experience is what like helped me get my internship with Caterpillar. Like as a sophomore at IR, like I had that experience. I know it's definitely tough right now, but I think just like having all of your experiences on your resume, and like being able to talk about your experiences and what you're doing inside the classroom and also outside of the classroom is what's like can really set you apart.
Does anyone else want to share on how they were able to get an internship specifically during the pandemic? Nobody. Anna, did you get one?
I got mine like in February, so it was before it hit the US, I would say. But I just wanted to go back to does the ME department help in getting internships / jobs? Or I got my full-time job, I guess, during COVID times, so that sort of applies. But the mechanical engineering department has a blog, and they also send out weekly emails with job postings, which I always find helpful to look at. And then also, I think another great option on campus is the CCO. So, though that's not mechanical engineering specific, I still get emails like from my preferences in the CCO, like when Expo was last week. It was like, you could be interviewing for this position just because I have my like resume uploaded to that website. I didn't even need to do anything for that. But yeah, just applying to a lot in general, I think gets you there.
Just to add on to what Anna said, one way that ME directly helps you get an internship is that they collect resume books from 3 clubs. So ASME, Pi Tau Sigma, and PMEA will all have resume books of their members, and those are forwarded to the Director of Industry Experience, Julia King, and those are provided to ME's corporate sponsors. So those are companies that donate to ME, and in return, one of the things they receive is resume books. So if you join one of those clubs, then you'll be on that list. So you have a higher chance of being seen by company representatives. So that's something to look into.
And the other thing I just want to piggyback on what Jonathan just said about Julia King and her position is that she also works with students from the co-op perspective. So co-ops are definitely affiliated through the university. So that I would say co-op is by far probably you get more assistance for co-op than you do for internships. And that's mainly because internships, you can get them through, I've heard a student tell me they got it on an airplane once from just talking to an alum that was sitting next to them. I saw someone get offered a position while we were doing an event on campus because an alum came up and just offered it. So there's a lot of unique ways, but yes, for sure, the co-op program probably has the most connection to university resources. So.
While we're in this pandemic and it might be harder to get the internship and co-op opportunities, we haven't really talked about research, and research is amazing on campus. So I would love to just go through the list here and just briefly talk about what you're working on in your internship. So we can start here with Nitya and just go down the line.
Yeah, so I work on research with Dr. Capillary, who also does robotics research. So I specifically work to design a robotic arm that will go on a robot and gets deployed in like different agricultural field to collect and analyze data. So a lot of it is kind of getting that experience of doing a design project and then working alongside as well, like PhD and master students. So that's a really good opportunity to learn from others who are kind of really good at the field and their jobs. And so overall, like in my experience for research, I've done it for 2 semesters, and I've been able to kind of, even during COVID, I've been able to kind of design, prototype, be able to test my different components and go to the lab and kind of get that experience as well. So that's been great.
Allie, can you go next?
Sure. So
Thanks.
I'm currently working on my research project is called First Principles Calculations of Thermal Constants with Professor Ruan. I've recently started this research project about a couple weeks ago, so I'm fairly new with the subject. But I definitely feel that this research opportunity has been a big challenge for me. It's definitely taken me out of my comfort zone for my classes, since through this research opportunity, within these first couple weeks it's a big learning process to get ahead of the learning curve of how to calculate these thermal constants is a very large process. And I learned a lot about thermodynamics and quantum mechanics through this. And this is definitely a huge supplement to my classwork and my coursework. And I definitely have challenged myself through this research opportunity, and I've really enjoyed that.
Yeah, so I've been doing research with Purdue's Convergence Design Lab under Professor Karthik Ramani. And so this is a really interesting lab because it has a lot of intersection between mechanical engineering as well as computer science and design. So it's been a great experience to get to know not only mechanical engineering upperclassmen, but also PhD students and master's students in CS and other majors. So the project that I'm working on is actually an augmented reality authoring system. So the idea is that so the application would be for manufacturing and assembly. And the idea is that instead of having your boss teach you how to put something together, you would strap on a VR headset, and then it would play back in augmented reality how you would put something together or do an assembly line task. So I'm currently designing a test rig to demonstrate the functions of this system, and I'm going to deliver it to companies to show that off. Yeah.
So I never actually did research, but I have interned twice and will be returning full time after graduation with Amazon's hardware division. So I specifically work on advanced products in the Echo line. So sort of whatever Amazon's going to put Alexa in next is kind of what I'm always working on. My job kind of is like a really good reflection of what ME is here at Purdue, which is sort of a jack of all trades. You got like one foot in the door with all sort of sections. So I'll work with EEs, I'll work with thermal engineers, I'll work with structural engineers. I'm kind of all over the place. I'll be in the office, I'll be in the lab, I'll be on the factory floor, sort of at all stages of production of a product. So that just kind of goes to show how broad ME can be and how applicable it is to industry. My specific job is product designer. So if something like that is interesting to you, if you like being along every step of the way of bringing a product from idea to the real world, then ME is definitely for you. I recommend it.
Yeah, and like Jonathan, I have not had formal research experience. I filled like my extra credit with a Spanish minor, which you can see on the screen, and then I also have a management minor. As far as my internship this past summer during the pandemic time with Siemens, I worked on a lot of coding. I learned Python, so I actually made an app And I can say at the beginning of the summer, I had like no knowledge. Like for the freshmen right now, if you're struggling with MATLAB, I still struggle with MATLAB as well. So, but just so you know, it gets better, and I'm glad I had that internship so I could put that coding experience on my resume when I was going into full-time jobs. And then upcoming this summer with L3Harris, I will be an analyst, specifically a thermal analyst on their space and airborne systems. So if you see a weather satellite, I will be doing the analyst or the analysis for that in space.
Yeah, and I'm currently doing research with Dr. Chortos. So he's a newer professor here on campus, so his lab is pretty new. And I guess the benefit of that is like there isn't really PhD and master students already there. So I get like a lot of time to ask questions to Professor Chortos. And so I guess like what the research is I'm currently working on a multi-material 3D printer. So we have a shop bot in the lab. And I'm also like get to go in person in the lab, which is really nice. But we're working on like turning the 3 z-axes into 3 and turning the 1 z-axis into 3. And so I'm working on like the control board and like programming the software, which has definitely been a challenge, but it's definitely rewarding. And there's like research is definitely different than I thought it was, but it's like a lot more open-ended, which I think is a lot more interesting. And being also able to like apply what you're learning in the classroom in the lab has been really fun.
Have any of you guys that have done research gotten published or gone somewhere because of your research? No.
So in March, I'm actually scheduled to visit one of the companies that our test rig system is designing the application for. So I'm actually going to be delivering that system next month. And I believe in the future, we're going to be designing a second iteration of this system that's going to be used for a research publication.
That's awesome. We're winding down. We don't have any other questions, but what would you tell your younger self if you were going back to your FYE self? What is one thing you would have told yourself you wish you'd have known? Jonathan, do you have something as an outgoing?
I would say ME is a difficult degree. It takes a lot of time and effort to get through it. So don't slack FYE because it can definitely help your GPA a lot if you make sure that you're really staying on top of your course load at the very beginning. And also it'll teach you good time management. If you're doing extracurriculars, like I highly recommend you do while in ME, time can be tight sometimes. So learning those skills, how to manage your time early in college will definitely help you down the line, especially come like say junior year in ME.
Anna, as another senior, do you have words of wisdom?
Yeah, I think looking back to my freshman self, I like strongly recommend whether it's an FYE now, whether you're going to mechanical, whatever engineering discipline, finding a good group of friends within that discipline. Like you don't need to do it all yourself. If you're like too afraid to ask your professor, maybe it's like something stupid. I there's like 100 times I just have to Google something and it's like the most basic engineering principle. And I'm like, I'm a senior right now, but just having a group of friends within the major who is stuck on the same homework problem as you, or maybe is working against the same deadline as you that you can text. And then after that deadline's over, like I know when I had an exam last semester, all my friends and I went and got ice cream, but I didn't really find that group of friends till like end of my sophomore, junior year. So I would definitely recommend that. And I know it's like hard making friends anytime, but I literally made friends with the girl next to me sitting in one of my sophomore year classes. So if you have in-person class, like if you're in Zoom class, don't be afraid to reach out to people.
That's really it for the questions. The last question was about T2M and which Kristen, you might want to answer this. So is it more competitive in the summer or in the spring?
Definitely more in the summer, and that's because if we fill up in spring, we take a lot less students in the summer. So the faculty tend to really look heavily at reaching our numbers at the end of, most students matriculate normally either at the end, the completion of the spring term, than they do at the completion of their summer term. So, you know, I would say what I think John actually did the best is, honestly, what makes the difference is your GPA, and showing, if you had maybe a rough start, showing improvement. So I think that's the key thing to show the admissions committee is, you know, you might have started off a little rough and had a rough transition, but you made improvement in the classes. And as close as that you can come to that 3.2 threshold, the more likely that you will get in. So the hard part is I can't ever say that this is, we take this number, we're at this number, we have this many spots. I never have the ability to say that. So, and quite frankly, it's also, you're as good as your peers. So it's, you know, you might have a strong cohort that's coming in, and I have, you know, 550 students that have a 3.32. One semester, I might have 260 that have a 3.2. So it's really based on a lot of different scenarios and whatnot. So the best advice I can give is exactly what Jonathan just said, which is work your as much as you can in first year engineering and get that solid GPA.
And that's all the questions we've had so far. Yeah.
Okay, that's all. Okay. One of the things I did want to also just make sure to give the sophomores on the call. So you guys transferred during this pandemic as well. So I know that was a rough transition. So I guess I would like to hear what kind of advice that you would give, hopefully that these students on the call that are listening aren't going to have to transition in the same environment. But what have you found during this pandemic in transitioning to be successful, or helped you transition?
I can go first. While a lot of our classes are a lot different now that we're online, I feel that a lot of the classes in the ME department give a lot of opportunities for office hours and extra sessions. You can go for tutoring or one-on-one sessions. And because you have all these opportunities in the comfort of your computer or in your own home or dorm, 100% take advantage of these. A lot of these exams, especially the first exams you'll take as an ME with statics or thermo, can sneak up on you. They're quite difficult, and you could think you got it in your classroom and then go to the exam and then not think you did so well. Definitely take advantage of these SI sessions, these one-on-one sessions, and you'll be okay. Also, definitely take advantage of study groups. Those people in your classes, I'm sure, want the same. They want those. They want to make those connections within the ME department. Be that person to reach out and find your people. I think Anna was talking. I think Anna was talking about definitely making friends within the ME department. Try to take advantage of that, and yes, just take advantage of those extra online resources they give us.
Yeah, so I mean, I actually have a couple of in-person classes. So I know our sophomore design class there, we do meet in person once a week for one lab period, which is really great for having that obviously in-person lab experience. And I would say also joining extracurriculars. Like this semester, I joined PMEA, which is a really great experience for meeting other people in ME. Even though I already had friends in mechanical engineering, it was really great to be able to interact with upperclassmen and to ask for advice on classes and all the kinds of stupid scheduling questions that I had. So yeah.
They're not stupid scheduling questions. We were all in the weeds on this whole batch thing, so don't feel bad. So I got Andrew, if you're out there, you can actually show your QR code, and we will hang out for a little bit if there's any more questions that we can address or answer for students. And Luana's still monitoring the chat. So if you have something, just throw it in there and we'll be happy to answer.
So the question, this is about classes. Ideally, you take your oral and written classes while you're in FYE. If you have more specific questions, check with your advisor, since it's more individual.
Yes, the oral and written component is required to complete the first year engineering program. So.
Thank you so much, everyone, for all of your questions and joining us tonight. We had an amazing conversation. Thank you to all of our PMEA people. Don't forget
Quick question. How do I scan the code? Like, what app do I use to do it? I don't know how to.
If you're having issues scanning it, just leave your name and Purdue email in the chat.
Okay, but what app do you normally use to scan it? That's what I'm asking.
For iPhone, the camera should recognize it automatically. I'm not sure what you would do otherwise. You can look, you'd have to basically go to the App Store. Yeah, these are a couple examples that they put in here.
If you have an Android, just take your phone out with the camera and hold down on the center of the screen while pointing it at the code. That should usually work.
Yeah, we got like a expert online here. Jonathan can tell us all about the contraptions in the phone. Jonathan, I know